is Pastor Georgy from pointedtoeternity.com, and welcome back to another Strategic Trends update. On this channel, you will find Bible studies, strategic trends updates, answers to Bible questions, and also short messages. So if you are new to this channel and if you are not yet subscribed, consider subscribing by pressing the subscribe button and also hitting the bell notification so that you won't miss any episode that is uploaded. So let's look at today's update. The US had bought 2 Iron Dome missile defense batteries from Israel for $373 million in 2019. The first one was delivered in late 2020 and the second in January of 2021. Now, these ought to have been deployed in the Middle East area, especially Iraq and Syria, where US soldiers are coming under increased attacks from Iranian proxies, launching missiles and drone attacks against these US soldiers and army bases. Also remember that the US withdrew its Patriot missile defense system from Saudi Arabia last month. And we had shared about that in our previous update. Actually, Saudi Arabia was facing increased drone attacks from the Houthis from Yemen, and the Houthis are Iranian proxies in that region. Amidst that, the US had withdrawn its Patriot defense batteries from Saudi Arabia. Now, people had wondered where these newly purchased Iron Dome missile defense batteries from Israel, where the US had deployed it. The US military tests Iron Dome in Guam with eyes on threats from China. The US had deployed these Iron Dome systems, these 2 batteries, in Guam, a small island which is a US territory around 3,000 kilometers from China. Now, the US is more concerned about the Chinese threat in the Pacific region, especially since China had recently tested a hypersonic missile in August. Such missiles travel at 5 times the speed of sound. They travel at a low altitude, and also they can be controlled in flight. This makes them all the more dangerous. And the American intelligence was rather stunned when the Chinese announced that they had successfully tested a hypersonic missile. Only the US and Russia had such hypersonic missile capabilities. And now, amidst all of these developments, China is beefing up its military. It is now building hundreds of nuclear missile silos. And just recently, Chinese military had conducted a training using a dummy of a US aircraft carrier and a destroyer in the Taklamakan Desert area. China builds missile targets shaped like US aircraft carrier destroyers in remote desert. This was the report that had been out. So, why is China doing all these kind of military exercises? China is becoming a major threat to the US in the Pacific region, especially as all of us know that China, Taiwan, US, all those issues that are happening right now. So therefore, the US is starting to test and improve its defense systems in the Pacific region. That's why it's focusing more in the Pacific area rather than the Middle East now. That's the current administration, the current US administration's policy as of now. Remember, when the US had pulled out of Afghanistan, that triggered a series of events which were all initiated by the Iranian regime and their proxies. See, now that scenario in the Middle East is in a way that Iran, through its proxies like Hezbollah, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hamas, the Houthis in Yemen, the Shia militia in Iraq and Syria, all these forces and the Iranian regime are increasingly asserting themselves in the Middle East region using rocket attacks, missile attacks, as well as drone attacks against Israel and also against their Sunni neighbors. Amidst all these issues, the US is now focusing not on the Middle East, but in the Chinese region, in the Pacific region. That's what we need to focus. What's happening right now? Along with that, UAE, Bahrain, Israel, and US forces in first joint naval drill. Now, this naval drill is conducted in the Red Sea. As we know, UAE and Bahrain had signed the Abrahamic Accords with Israel last year. And right now, this is the first acknowledged naval exercise between the US, Israel, and these two Gulf countries. The first time that such an event is happening. And why is it done in the Red Sea? It is the growing threat of Iran in the Middle East. Now, at the same time, the Iranian forces are expanding their military exercises and terror operations in that region. On November 11, the commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Aerospace Force, Amir Ali Hajizadeh, said that Israel is doomed to termination and that any move by Israel will make that destruction fast. IDF Chief of Staff Aviv Kohavi, in reply, gave a warning on Tuesday that the military was boosting its preparations for a possible attack on Iranian nuclear facilities. And on that same day, Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz said Israel would carry out operations that haven't been seen in the past if regional war breaks out. Now, why is all this happening? The tensions, the high friction between Israel and Iran, these things are happening right now. See, we need to know that talks to restore that 2015 Iran nuclear deal will resume in Vienna on this 29th of November. And Iran somehow wants that deal to happen. And Israel at the same time does not want the deal to materialize, because Israel knows that once Iran gets that, Iran will eventually become nuclear and it will become a threat not only to Israel but also to the entire Middle East. Dear people of God, it's time to watch and pray. Because as Russia is supporting Iran and Russia also wants that deal to happen, and at the same time Israel does not want to go into a situation wherein it can allow Iran to go nuclear. See that situation over there. The Ezekiel 38 invasion is not so far. It's so near. But as per the Bible, the rapture ought to happen long before that. Now I know many people would be asking, pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib. All those things will be, dealt with in subsequent episodes as well as sessions. So stay tuned for that. But as of now, it's time to watch and pray. Watch and pray, because we don't know what time the Son of Man is coming. What time Jesus is coming, nobody knows. So all the time, be watchful, be prayerful, for the coming of the Lord is so near. Is so near. Amen. God bless you. And by the way, if you are blessed by this message, be sure to hit that like button. And also, if you are not yet subscribed, kindly subscribe by pressing that subscribe button and also pressing that bell notification, so that you would continue to receive blessed messages and updates like this on this same channel.